PDCA meeting. Let's recap from yesterday's operation. So total cube for the whole night as a team, you guys were a 77.52, so nice job with that. Damages, we took a hit from Monday. We had 3 exceptions yesterday, all outbound generated, you said, Clint?
Yeah.
It was the Merca switch, we had that unsecured freight. So our damages exceptions yesterday were 286, so we're going to follow up with the driver who picked up the freight and make sure he understands the process going to that customer next time. So the customer is taking the freight back today, but again, pre-shift wise for the 3 o'clock meeting, we need to cover that with everyone. Motor moves per hour, we had an improvement from last week, so 8.13, nice job, slightly under goal. Again, keep identifying waste out there when we do the waste walks for any improvements that we need to be. If we have to get the SMEs involved again, moving forward with the new hires, we did have those 2 gentlemen start yesterday. They're not full service yet, but by the end of the week they'll be on their own, so we want to look at that for an opportunity. Load factor, even though we hit cube, load factor as a whole, we were 27,052, so about 2,000 pounds under goal. However, we had a strong week ending last week, 34,000 pounds on Friday, so some of the VIA activity going towards AY, we had some light fluffy freight with all the Clearfield drivers. That was the lowest lane, that was about 21,000 for the whole lane. So other than that, decent job with executing cube on all the lanes. On-time departures, we knew where we had some issues yesterday with City Cycle, that we had that gap between 5 o'clock and 6, and then we kind of got hit with a tidal wave with about 25 drivers arriving between 1800 and 1700, where we couldn't digest enough freight, so 60% on time was the ending number. I know that we identified 3 lates last night that could have been prevented. Each one of you had one. Lynn, you had the issue with Ivan in his long hook in his traffic flow. You're going to counsel him on that today. Clint, you had that hazmat bill.
Yeah, and also that Pittsburgh, I had 2 that were overweight, couldn't be hooked together.
And the last cold water, we're just waiting for everything to close out, so double teaming on that. So break down the lanes. Lynn, you can start first. How'd you make out with your lanes?
I hit goal in all of my lanes, Charleston and Cincinnati. I kind of interchanged the freight. That was my only kind of obstacle that I had. Cincinnati originally had 40,000 pounds, only cubed at 125. Making all that fit into 2 trailers is kind of tricky. So I took some of the lighter stuff from Charleston, I pushed it to Cincy, and I moved some of the heavier stuff from Cincy and moved it through Charleston. So I lost a couple of cubes here and there, but I gained cubes. So I got Cincinnati. My projected was 2 trailers at 125. At the end of the night, I got 2 at 157. So I increased cube there. That was the main obstacle that I had. So the only thing that I did for my adjustments is that to keep an eye on those freight without being able to actually divert them into the lanes, I circled it on the manifest and had the guys come see me and tell them what trailers exactly I wanted them to load into. So I planned for 4 in Charleston, I stayed at 4, planned for 2 in Cincy, stayed at 2, and planned for 4 in Clearfield, and stayed at 4.
Nice job. What about you, Clint?
Columbus, I planned for 13 at 1,002 cube. Adjustments were, we ended up having 17,000 pounds of Kansas City. It was billed wrong, it was hazmat. So that ended up coming out of my plan. Kind of threw a curveball at me because we were already loading that. We did end up still having 13 trailers at 967 cube. So we ended up still staying on plan even with that 17,000 out. We ended up with 73.57 cube in that lane, so just below goal. It's pretty close there. Detroit, we ended up planning with 4 trailers for 216 cube. Adjustments were 71% of Pontiac went to AY, along with 26% of Ann Arbor freight to AY. So we ended up having 3 trailers for 133 cube. At the end of the night, my last trailer, I probably could have ended up holding on to that Ann Arbor freight, so I did have some space for it, but weight was very high in that lane. My first trailer was almost 24,000 pounds, so we did end up with a 34.21 due to that weight in that lane. For the Pittsburgh, we planned for 3 at 212 cube. Diversions had us diverted in 48% of Milton and then 46% of Hagerstown.
Good.
We ended up actually having 4 trailers at 306 cube. So that actually ended up being a good lane there. We went over goal, we got 76.37 in that lane.
Okay, nice job. So Detroit's just something we have to look at again today. So diversion wise, we still want to follow line all those diversions because again, it's about balancing freight flow and must clear freight. So the only option for you in Detroit, I mean, you had that empty pop up, which you were able to help Toledo.
Yep.
If you get Toledo,
Be in Toledo.
and pick one. So the only other thing is maybe you can take some 2-day freight from you and AY to fill that lane or help you out in Coldwater if you were tight. So how'd you make out in Coldwater?
Coldwater went well. I didn't really take anything because he had the Indy, which we kept as a pure, and he took that to Columbus. So Coldwater, I was planning for 12 trailers, stuck to 12, planned for 973, jumped up to 994 because there was a little bit of overflow out of the Kettleman City van that put in the Coldwater lane. So overall, it was 86 cube in Coldwater, so that's pretty good. AY, I gave him some Ann Arbor freight and some Pontiac freight, about 26% of Ann Arbor, about 64 of Pontiac. Or I took that into my lane. I gave him about 48% of Milton, 46 of Hagerstown. So gave him about 100 cube of Pittsburgh. He gave me about 100 cube of Detroit. So
That was off the diversion list,
that was
right?
off the diversion. So
Okay.
that about evened out. So I had about 634 cube I was planning for, evened out with about 630 at the end. So 79 cube in AY.
Nice job.
So the only one that was under par was South Bend. South Bend I was planning for 159 cube, but I think it was one of the Trimco, when we kicked some of that out. Afterwards I lost some cube, so I took some Des Moines and stuff out of the van. I was going to take some Milwaukee, but the Milwaukee's already all loaded.
Okay.
So I ended up with 129 cubes, so that was the under par one of 63 cubes. So if I had caught it earlier, I probably could have taken some of the Milwaukee before it was all loaded. Probably could look for some other stuff within Coldwater.
Okay.
But I didn't want to take too much out of the van because the van ended up being like 170 cubes. So.
The Quad City van was?
Quad City was.
Nice job. That Snohomi's tough too to hit.
Yeah. So other thing I could have done is just communicated better with him. I probably could have given him some 2-day in AY because I actually was going to go over that one. Then we had the Erie.
Yep.
The Erie went to Columbus. So it would have put me over one, but he took the Erie in Columbus. So, but I probably could have gave him some of the 2-day, helped you out, and then just mixed up the 2-day and the next day for my last trailer. But that's all part of communication. So.
All right, so operationally we're in the same position. Yesterday, why cycle's decent right now. Everybody's called in. There's only one line haul driver off tonight, Bob Cousin, that's it. So same plan that you guys have that we did yesterday. Cover that hazmat. So the driver's supposed to sign for it correctly, but make sure the dock workers are actually looking at the hazmat bills again and making sure that the sequence is correct. ISHP on that. So nice job last night. Keep it going the rest of the week and we should be okay. We ended positive last week, so the whole week we were 75.6 for the week we were above goal. So to keep the momentum going tonight for the rest of the week, we should have no problems whatsoever.
Okay.
Good.